with the recent incredible news of the announcement to bring Bioshock to iOS, would it be possible that this version of the game could be ported to the PlayStation Vita in the future? I agree that the Vita already has a vast library of outstanding titles, but getting to visit Rapture on my handheld would admittedly be a dream come true. Keep up the good work, Beyond, Paul Black. I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think so either.
Mitchell,
Yeah.
Are you briefed on this news?
Yes, I am.
You've been tell everybody the news then.
So just the iOS thing?
Yeah.
That they are like remaking the original Bioshock for the iPad. They have all the touch controls in there, downgrade the visuals a little bit so you get the full Bioshock experience on the iPad.
Right. Done. That was the news. He did a good job, everybody.
Yeah, that was great.
I would love for it to come to Vita. This is first thing everybody jumped to the conclusions they started throwing out. Gabriel wrote in. He said, "Is this a sign of Western developers abandoning the Vita, or simply Sony dropped the ball as this is another system seller like Borderlands 2?" That's a packed up question, Gabriel, but we'll unpack it for you.
Well, this is the sign of Western developers embracing mobile more than we ever thought they would. We saw signs of this a few years ago, and people sort of said, we'll never get real experiences on mobile. This is for games like, Angry Birds and Cut the Rope and, Flick the Square or whatever.
Flick the Square!
Bury the dirt!
From the makers of Knob Switch comes Flick the Square and bury the dirt.
Squawkle, the game where you make a square talk.
You and I were talking about this yesterday, because we talk a lot. We're best friends. And the problem is that it's not as easy as we'd like it to be, probably, right, to make the iOS game come over to Vita.
Yeah.
Like, how long would it take? I don't know. We're BSing because we're not developers. A month?
We don't know.
2 months? I don't know. But even that, you're losing money, and you figure you have to assign buttons now to these touch controls, do all these different things, make it run a different rate, put trophies in, It's just too much of a hassle for the people doing this. And the reason I pretty much know this won't happen, and I say that hoping to be proven wrong in the next 6 months, is the fact that XCOM came to the mobile devices too, came to iPad as well. Right. And it was like, yes, I would love to get XCOM.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on what is the sub name of that one?
Enemy Unknown?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the sequel or the follow-up, or was it Enemy Unknown? What was the other one then? Because there was XCOM, Enemy Unknown, and then there was either another one or one before it.
Cut the Square.
XCOM, Cut the Square. Whatever.
Bury the dirt.
The original new XCOM came out on iPads. It has never come to Vita. And that would be an amazing game to have on the Vita because it's turn-based strategy and it was so much fun, yada, yada. But it never did. And it's just, there's got to be this thing of, where I always talk about the fact that the Vita is doing well enough. It's, it's doing all right. But the install base isn't there to make this worth 2K's time, their money. Because there is money to go into porting these projects over. Whereas on the iPhone or the App Store or whatever, you put it up and you get, everyone has this, everyone can buy it. Kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's the sort of like weird chicken and egg thing that happens with systems like this, right? Where it's like, well, it's not selling well enough to put something new on it. And you're like, well, if you put something new on it, it would sell more.
Right.
And that's this like kind of circle, but people kind of walk away from the whole thing. The reason we wanted XCOM because it's awesome.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, and we were like, The reason this is a twist of the knife is because Ken Levine got on stage at an E3 a couple years ago and said, yeah, you guys,
we're really excited about this thing, too.
Bioshock Vita. And then it never happened. And they asked him in an interview recently, and he was like, oh, yeah, well, we wanted to do that, but we never
Still
actually
locked
did
up with the business guys. And it would have been like Tactics. And it was like, this sounds amazing.
Yeah.
This sounds like such an amazing game.
Oh, that was the other twist of the knife. He was like, but if we were to do it, here's how it would have gone.
Yeah.
And he gave this elevator pitch for this awesome original Bioshock game that we'll never see. Or maybe we will. That's why this kind of hurts, because it's like, oh, you're making a Bioshock for mobile devices, but not the one you kind of promised you were going to make a Bioshock for.
Right.
It hurts. I don't know what to say other than, like, write letters, maybe start petitions.
Well, see, the thing about it is, we're always talking you guys to be vocal in a good way and be positive and talk, tweet at people, right? Like, but to Gabriel's thing, he's talking about, is this, simply Sony dropped the ball on another system seller? Like, Sony had to have been caught off guard about this as well. It's not like 2K is telling Sony what they're doing with their games and properties.
No.
And so hopefully, like he calls out Borderlands. Of course, Borderlands happened in a roundabout way because of fan interaction, right?
Yeah.
Like Randy said at one interview, like, oh, that'd be really cool, but who knows if it'll ever happen. And then he came on up at noon, serendipitously. We got him in touch with Shuhei, got him in touch with Adam. That all started happening, and that game happened. And it happened because people talked to the developer and the publishing arm, right? So if you want this to happen, you need to be tweeting at Adam Boys and 2K. You need to be saying, like, this is something we would want to see, and this is how we'd support it.
Yeah, 100%. Let them know. I don't think that... Actually... People looked at this as bad news for Vita. I don't feel that way. I think this, what you're implying, I think this is a good step. Like, if they're already figuring out how to port the code of this game to mobile devices, then that's one step closer than they were before any of this. So how well that translates to Vita, who knows? Again, we're not game developers. We have no idea.
Yeah, we don't know.
But yeah, let your local congressman know.
You figure if they can downgrade it, well, not downgrade it, that might not be the right word.
No, that's right. It's downgraded.
If they can move it over to an iPad, it should be at least a little easier to get.
Sure, no, and that's the thing. Yeah, you feel like you're a half step away, but the problem is that there's these finicky jerks like Brian and I are going to be like, I don't want to use the Vita touchpad. I need sticks, and I need this, and that's when it's like, well, we didn't build this version theoretically to do that, to think like that.
And it's kind of a bummer for me because I love Bioshock, and I'd love to play it again, but when you tell me it's coming to iPad, I'm like, give me buttons and joysticks. Yeah. Sorry. Maybe I'm old school.
That should be your next album title. Give me buttons and joysticks.
Sorry, maybe I'm old school.
No, give me buttons and joysticks.
Okay.